It had been 3 months since the Sodor and Westeren had opened for business. Spring had turned to summer, and as the seasons changed for the better, so too did the railway. The island's factories, still in the production hype of the war, had had one of the best production seasons they had had in years. Relations with the mainland railways were good, specifically with the LNER, and more contracts of freight and passenger services were opened between them and the Sodor and Westeren. One night, James pulled into the station at Knapford with one of these trains. Thomas was waiting there for Gordon to return with the day's Nor'western. As he pulled into the platform, his brakes gave a great squeal. Dear me, what a noise! Sounds like you'll be needing a new set of brake pads then, James. You're telling me? My driver says the squeal is going to make him go deaf, and I can feel it getting harder to stop when I need to. Oh dear. Oh well, a quick trip to the work should fix that.
Oi! If you're unloaded, clear this platform. It's needed for the return Nor'western.
Righto then. See you in a bit, Thomas. It wasn't a minute later that Gordon thundered into the station with the returning Nor'western.
Evening, Thomas. Waiting for me, I see. That was very nice.
Well, more for your coaches than you, Gordon. But then again, it is nice to see you around. Gordon gave a chuckle.
Well said, my little blue friend. Now if you could please take these coaches away.
Say no more, Gordon. I'm off to take them. Thomas ran round to the back of the train, where he collected the empty coaches. Gordon looked around the station. He seemed quite relieved that his day's work was done, and his eyes drooped wearily. It wasn't long after that Thomas returned, and he took the train to their respective sidings in the yard. A little while later, James was returning to Knapford with his return train. The Fat Controller was at the platform.
Bless me, what a noise!
Sorry, sir. I don't know what the problem is with them. They've never squealed like this before. Perhaps they're just worn out. James looked at the clock. It was nearly midnight. You're here late, sir. Important business?
Yes. Waiting for Percy with the last train of the day. Have to head to Tidsmouth for pressing business.
James was just about to speak up about his brake problem, when Percy pulled in with the last train of the day, and the Fat Controller was in the coaches before James could say a word. And with that, the disgruntled Class 28 left off steam and pulled away towards Knapford Yards. The next day, James was hauling a heavy freight. He was banked up Gordon's Hill by a visiting pannier tank. James ran fine until he hit the downgrade at Knapford, and he clamped on his squealing brakes. But on the downgrade, they got weaker and weaker until he lost them altogether, and went careening down the bank towards Knapford Yards uncontrollably. Thomas, in the meantime, was going about his normal shunting duties in the yard, when he heard an all too familiar squeal. That sounds familiar. Must be James coming in. Dear God! I hope he'll be alright. Not more than a minute later, the alarm sounded, and the signalman came down to speak to Thomas's driver. Thomas quickly gathered the breakdown crane and ran to help James. They found him, not more than a mile up the line, on his side, and looking quite displeased. Fortunately, it had rained earlier that morning, and James simply sank into the mud without hurting himself. Thomas ran around and took the unhurt cars away. He would return for James later. By the time Thomas returned, the workman had had James loaded onto a flat car for him to take away. He would return for James's tender and the rest of the cars later. Not long after, Thomas pulled James into Knapford Station, where the Fat Controller was waiting for them.
The accident wasn't your fault, James, but why didn't you tell me about your brakes?
I tried, sir.
Regardless, I think it's odd that a custom-built engine would have old-fashioned wooden brake blocks. Well, no matter. You'll be getting a new set of steel ones soon.
The Fat Controller then turned his attention to Thomas, and told him that he had a very special surprise for him. Thomas could only beam, and James seemed very happy that he wouldn't be having any more accidents. The Fat Controller's surprise turned out to be the opening of Thomas's own private branch line, which ran from the small town of Tidmouth to Farquhar, a small town in the hill country. As a gift for Thomas's gallantry in saving James, he was also given 2 ex-LNER branch coaches. They are named Annie and Clarabelle, and he is very fond of them and loves them dearly. James has since received his steel brake blocks, and is quite pleased with them, especially since he never has to worry about having any more accidents. And so, life on the Sodor Northwestern Railway goes on.